Hi everybody! Today we're going to be working on this wallpaper page, and this one is from the Grimm Fairy Tales adult colouring book. But any wallpaper page would probably work for this little idea that I've got going on. And this is an idea that I had last night. It's one of those ideas that won't get itself out of your head until you actually settle down and do it. So I figured today, for a little bit of a quick and easy weekend colouring, I'd try out this idea that I've got in my head. And the idea was to turn a wallpaper page into actual wallpaper. And if you've been watching my previous few videos, I've mentioned that I'm getting really quite interested in collage at the moment. So what I figured I could do is find a scene of an interior from a magazine or a book or something, and maybe cut out the furniture, stick that down on here and turn this page into actual wallpaper. So the picture I ended up finding, I thought I could work with, is this one here, just to see how this idea would actually work out. And I'm no expert on collage. I don't have an extensive collection of books to pick from or anything. So this one is just from a normal women's magazine. People in the UK might recognise that one quite easily. Yep, this is quite an old issue that I've had kept back for a while. And I found this picture in an article about interior design, interior decorating, all these accessories and stuff. And I figured that would be quite a nice one to work with. What my plan is to cut out around this furniture, around the edge of the bed, maybe up this edge of the curtain, and have this area of the actual picture to be the wallpaper coloured in. The rest of the page maybe blacked off or covered up in some way, just to make this the focal point of the picture. I might bring in one or two of these pictures on the wall afterwards. I don't know, maybe just this bottom row, because that would be covering up quite a lot of the colouring if we're going to colour the wallpaper. But that is the kind of idea. That's what I want to play with today. We'll see how it goes. If you're watching this video, then hopefully it went well. But the idea is what I want to play with. That's going to be the fun part. And I'm not concerned about being neat and tidy. You might see that there's a couple of little bits coming over the edge of that picture there. I don't think it's too noticeable. That was just from other kind of items in the advertisement feature that was in the magazine. But I figure once we've got the actual wallpaper going on, we've got our image stuck down, I don't think that will be too noticeable. So we'll zoom us in and we'll get started playing around. And there we go. So I think the first thing we need to be doing is marking out the area of this pattern that we are going to be colouring in. And I'm not really concerned with being majorly neat and tidy here, so I'm just going to mark this out fairly roughly. Put a couple of pencil lines where we want our edges to come to. And we're going to have to colour quite a way down here, because you can see the wallpaper comes behind this kind of bedside table here, side table. Not exactly sure what they're called. So about up to there, I think. We want to give ourselves quite a generous allowance in case our cutting out isn't quite on the mark, but that should just about do us, I think. And we'll just mark out these other edges as well. And I'm planning out on maybe covering up this edge of the pattern. We could leave it just to be a black and white little kind of border around there, which might work quite well. The plan is to cover it up as of now, but we'll see. We'll see how the idea develops, how it looks once we've played around with the actual colouring. And maybe, yeah, about there maybe we'll be going up to. So we'll just join up that little frame there so we can see the area of this page that we will be colouring in, which is a much smaller area, thankfully, because as I said, I'm really not a fan of wallpaper pages in general. So as little that I need to colour in as possible is always good. Yeah, that's all our edges joined up. Just to check that we have maybe got the area covered that we want covered. Yeah, we'll be fine with that, I think. We'll be cutting around this furniture here, so we've got, yeah, more than enough, which is always good. It's better to have more than enough than not enough. So that's about the area that we're going to want to be colouring in, which has cut down the page quite a lot, quite nicely. You could colour in that pattern any way you wanted to. Use any colours. I'm going to try and go with colours that will tie in with our actual scene here, which is why I picked out the scene first, so I could kind of work the wallpaper in with the furnishings. Hopefully I've picked out a couple of colours of markers to use, because this paper is single-sided, the book is single-sided rather, so I could colour that any way I wanted to, but just for quickness and kind of ease, I figured I'd just use a couple of markers to pick out that pattern. You could go crazy with your colours, use any colours that you wanted to. Have some wacky wallpaper going on there in the background for a bit of fun. I've decided to try and tie in with that picture of the scene though. So these are the two colour markers that I have picked out. Hopefully they'll last long enough to colour our square. So the colours I've picked out are RV260, that's pink from the Ohuhu markers, and for the pattern, the actual pattern over the top, I'm going to do E380, which is ash rose, and I think those two colours kind of tie in with the colours of the furnishings, so that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to start by just colouring the whole background with the pink. So as usual, not the most exciting thing to be watching, so I'll probably cut this out and catch up with you once I'm done. I've gone ahead and finished off that area now, and what I've realised is, yeah, it's a pretty big area to be trying to colour with a marker, so it's looking a little bit streaky. I'm not sure if that's picking up on camera, but that is looking a little bit streaky. So what I figured I'd try and do, instead of trying to hide that, is play it up and add a few little more bits of texture by going over with a second layer of marker just in places to make it look as if that is part of the pattern of the wallpaper. It's supposed to be kind of blobby in the background there. Once we've gone ahead and filled in all the pattern, hopefully it won't be too noticeable. But we're just having fun and playing anyways. Seeing how this turns out. I'll just go ahead and finish adding a few more areas with the second coat of this marker. So I'm hoping this dries, yep, slightly darker. And we're kind of disguising the area by playing up to it and making more of it. Which is something I've kind of learned from my colouring kind of journey so far, is if you do make the mess, play up to it, make more of it, make it look as if it's meant to be like that. It's a good way to kind of disguise or work in any kind of little mistakes that you make, especially in flat areas, because texture never really goes amiss in the flat areas. So I've filled in all that background texture there. Hopefully that's looking a bit more intentional now and not just like streaky marker in the background there. You could always go back in and adjust with coloured pencils, maybe play up these white areas a little bit more with a white coloured pencil, maybe do a bit of shading with a shade of pink or something. Maybe shade in a shade of pink. But now I'm going to go ahead and fill in all these pattern pieces with the ash rose marker, which is E380. It's a slightly different colour to the background, maybe a little bit more grayer, but I think that will fit in quite nicely with the pink and grey we've got going on with the furnishings. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in all these pattern spaces, and I'll catch up with you when I'm done. Alright, I've gone ahead and I've filled in all that pattern with our ash rose colour, and I realised once I finished colouring in all that pattern that I wasn't too happy with these black lines. I didn't think that fit in super well with that kind of delicate furniture. We're going to have these really stark black lines in the background. So what I've done is I've tested out down the bottom here, maybe if I zoom in a little bit we'll be able to see, there we go, down the bottom here I've tested out going over that black line with different colours of gel pen. We have a silver one here, which is this silver from the zebra set, just a cheap set of glitter gel pens I've been using. I tried using the silver here, I tried using the pink, which actually turned out to be more of a purple colour. This is the pink here, but that turned out to be more of a purple colour, which I thought, yeah, that doesn't go with the rest of the colours in our image, so I'd stay away from that. I also tried doing the white gel pen, which I think maybe kind of works, but I do prefer the silver. So what I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to be kicking myself in a minute for even thinking of it, is go around all this line art with this silver gel pen, and I think that will make it look a little bit more fancy and a little bit more delicate, and maybe work a little bit better with the furnishings we're going to be sticking on top. Of course, you can just leave it with the black lines, and that's probably what I would recommend, because I know this is going to be quite tedious and take a while, but I think it will look a lot better once I have actually done that. And these bits where I did test, they're actually going to be behind the furniture once we stick that on. Here we have our furniture here. You can see that that's going to be behind that pink table. We're going to have this behind the bed here, so that won't affect any of the finished piece at all. So I'm just going to start going ahead and going over all these outlines and see how much I regret the decision by the time I've actually finished. Maybe I'm being a little bit optimistic, but I'm going to say I'm maybe about halfway through this outlining now. And yes, it is getting a little bit tedious, but I think it does look super nice once it's actually been done around this edge here. I just wanted to kind of come in with a little bit of a tip that if you are using gel pens or indeed any other kind of wet medium, then ideally you'll be wanting to put it to the side to let everything dry before we go in and start messing around with sticking the furniture down and doing the collage part. But as I'm trying to get all this done in one session for the video, what I've done is I've worked on the bits that we could possibly be coming into contact with or touching when we are sticking the collage down, which would be this bottom area here and this side. I've just done those first so that hopefully they'll be starting to at least dry a little bit by the time I've finished all this and we do get around to sticking the collage on. So yeah, I just thought I'd pop in with that little kind of tip there before I carried on. So now I'll see you once I've finished up. Okay, I've finally finished all that outlining. I've gone around all the black outlines there with the silver gel pen, and I do think that looks a lot better. Definitely shows the difference between the piece that we've coloured and this black and white around the outside, which we haven't coloured. So what I'm going to do now before I actually cut out the furniture and stick that on is go around the frame, this area where the furniture is actually going to be. I'm going to give that an outline with the black Sharpie because I figure doing this frame around the actual image, that's going to be a little bit more difficult once we've actually stuck the furniture down. Okay, we've got a nice black frame there, nice thick black frame, and my colouring has actually gone over the edge here, so I think I am actually going to have to cover up all that pattern around the outside. So what I've decided to use to cover up this pattern around the outside is a silver Sharpie. I'm hoping that will work to cover up this pattern. Might need a couple of coats, but yeah, I'm thinking that might tie in quite nicely with this silver we've gone around our edges with here. I was thinking that maybe we could leave this black and white, but because I've gone over the edges here with my actual colouring, I'm thinking I'm going to have to cover it up now. But you don't have to use a silver Sharpie, you could just use black, you could use any way that you have to cover up. Yeah, this silver is working really nicely actually to cover up that pattern, so we're going to go with that. And just keep the actual wallpaper behind our furniture there. I think that'll work quite nicely. Might need to go back over that black once we're done, but I think this is going to work. Actually thinking on it and seeing there as I have been a little bit messy and gone over that black line that I've just put in, what I might do is just cover up that black line with the silver and just have the solid silver border around the outside. I think that might help the picture look a little bit more delicate. I was thinking we'd maybe need the black line to be separating our actual colouring and collage from the outside border, but if we do colour the whole thing in silver, I'm thinking that that black line isn't totally needed, and it might be a little bit too chunky, a little bit too stark black there. So once I've covered all this background with the Sharpie, which is doing quite nicely in just the one coat actually, I'm quite pleased with that. I'm going to go ahead and again just with the ruler cover up that black outline that we did. Okay, let's see what we can do about getting rid of this black line. I've decided against it, but hopefully this silver should be able to cover it up. There we go, black line or black line. There's a couple of coats of the silver Sharpie there. I'm not entirely happy with how the pen marks are showing through on it, but I've got an idea that maybe we'll distract from that once I'm done. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and cut out the furniture with a scalpel. I'm going to cut out around this lamp and the bed. I'll try and get these leaves. That might be a little bit fiddly, but I will try and cut out around the edge of this curtain. I might try cutting out a couple of these pictures as well, because I think that if we put one or two of these pictures actually onto the pattern that we're using as wallpaper, that may kind of enhance the illusion, add to the feeling that that pattern is actually the wallpaper. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these out now, and we'll see what we look like once they're stuck down. There's all our furniture cut out. I had to be a bit kind of generous with my border around these little leaves because they were very fiddly to cut out, and as this is really thin magazine paper, it's not your typical glossy magazine from like Vogue or Cosmo or anything like that. It's really thin paper. It is very prone to tearing, and I did manage to tear the lamp, but I'm hoping that won't be so noticeable once we've got everything stuck down. I have actually cut out a couple of the pictures as well, and I figure maybe if we put them sort of like this, just a couple of pictures on the wall, and got rid of all the little small ones, that will give us kind of an illusion that we have coloured in the wallpaper for the room there. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these down now, see how we're looking. And that'll just be with the Pritt stick glue. And I think I'm going to have to be really careful not to tear these leaves as I'm trying to stick them down, but I'll catch up with you once I've stuck all those down. Okay, I think that's working pretty well. The idea I had to hopefully distract from the pen marks that are around the edges of this silver here, and maybe to match up with the frames around these pictures on the wall, is to use this really kind of skinny silver washi tape. I'm hoping that this will tidy up my edges. Well, for a start, I'm hoping I've got enough of it. And I'm hoping it will tidy up the edges. I'm having to do quite a bit of fixing for this one here, but it is a kind of experiment in fixing mistakes, because I did manage to maybe lop off a little bit too much of that lamp, so we do have a space between the lamp and the border. So with this washi tape I am just going over slightly on the inside of that side to kind of disguise the fact that I did go a little bit too snip happy with that lamp there. Now it's just nestled kind of on the outside of our frame. I'm going to go around this inside edge first because I'm not entirely sure how much of this washi tape I do have left. At least if I only manage to go around this inside edge, then the picture will be finished off. Okay, so yeah, I was right. This picture is proving to be a complete lesson in how to fix things that are going wrong, because now I have run out of the silver washi tape. So my second plan is to maybe go on and try this copper one, which I'm hoping would match in with the kind of pink theme we've got going on there. So we'll take off this silver and see how our copper will do. The colours seem to be matching quite well. I think my only other option would have been gold, which I think is too bright a yellow to go with this picture. So I'm going to go ahead with this copper one, see how well we can do with that. Alrighty, I'm going to be calling it finished there, I think. I did go ahead and give this silver Sharpie yet another coat, now that it's had a fair amount of time to be dry in there, and I think that works a lot better. I think these the pen marks in that silver have pretty much gone now. That's looking pretty flat, so I'm kind of happy with that. And I'm actually thinking that this copper tape on the frame actually works maybe a little bit better than the silver would have. I have added some white gel pen highlights along the outsides here on the edges of this washi tape to make it look as if the light is actually coming out of the picture, maybe because we do have a curtain there, so maybe there's a window lighting up that room really nicely and it's spilling out onto the frame. I did go ahead and add a couple more of these pictures that were in the original photo because I thought my wall was looking a little bit bare. I've moved this one a little bit further away because that's where it was in the original photo, and I wanted to keep the perspective at least looking if it could be sort of right. I think the idea itself has worked pretty well, even though it was kind of an exercise in fixing things that were going wrong today. With the black frame not working at all, the Sharpie not working as well as I would have wanted it to, and then running out of the silver washi tape towards the end. Yeah, a few little problems to overcome there. Plus, of course, I cut a bit too much off this lamp, so I've had to move that tape in a little bit on that side. So my frame, yeah, it's not entirely equal on each side, but as I was only playing today and not really worried about being neat and precise, then yeah, that's fine. I can live with that, I think. Overall, I think it was kind of a fun experiment and something that you could do with wallpaper pages. I think maybe a smaller pattern would have worked slightly better, but I picked this pattern because it looked like something that you might find on wallpaper. Kind of like that embossed or flocked wallpaper. I thought maybe that would look like. And I think the pattern itself does look really nice with that silver outlining. It's a bit hard to see with my lamps glaring on it. Maybe if I tilt it up, yeah, there you can see what the pattern looks like. I think that's worked really well, and it does work well with the colours we've actually got in our furnishings. I did end up covering quite a lot of the actual colouring that I did today, but I don't mind that because I think the overall effect was pretty much worth it. And yeah, the main point of the video was to maybe give you the idea that this is something that you could do, a little idea to maybe experiment with. And I am kind of getting into my collaging at the moment. I do love to play with it a lot in my pictures, and seeing as I never actually colour wallpaper pages, well, I was going to say don't colour them very much. I don't colour them at all, really. I thought maybe it might be something to try if you've got a wallpaper page that you want to get out of the way quickly. Just something along those lines. And as you can see, you don't really need to colour a heck of a lot of the actual wallpaper page. And if I'd have been a bit more careful with marking out my square here to put the picture into, then I wouldn't really have had to cover up the edges. They could have just stood there as being black and white, and I think that would have worked pretty well as well. So a pretty enjoyable little kind of experiment today. Hopefully you've enjoyed following along with me today, seeing all the trials and tribulations of maybe getting this idea out onto the paper, out of my head and out onto the paper. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye.